outside.
Way
I'm actually not. But I think that there are white supremacist tattoos on there.
White supremacist federal officers.
Yeah, white supremacist federal officers.
Like, where are you going with this? Why would you say that?
I'm going with my eyes, ears, and logic. There have been multiple ICE agents who have white supremacist
men and women
tattoos
working for the federal government, risking their lives, carrying out a mandate, and they're white supremacists?
Yes, and you're a member of a cult, so I don't expect you to have
Let me ask you something real quick. When was the last time you saw someone on live television refuse to play nice, refuse to sugarcoat it, and just say exactly what everyone at home is already thinking? Because this right here, this is what happens when talking points crash headfirst into reality. Kevin O'Leary walks onto CNN ready to defend the indefensible, and Tiffany Cross absolutely refuses to let him hide behind buzzwords, respectability politics, or fake outrage. Watch closely, because this isn't just an argument, this is a complete exposure.
We begin tonight with breaking news. Damage control, a retreat, and a remarkable admission of possible wrongdoing from Donald Trump's hardline advisor. Tonight, Stephen Miller is conceding that agents in Minneapolis may not have followed protocol before the fatal shooting of Alex Preddy. And in a statement to CNN, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff pointed the finger at the agents on the ground for Homeland Security's initial characterization of the shooting. Now, Miller's about-face is coming days after he called Preddy a would-be assassin, and he suggested that Preddy was a terrorist. Vice President J.D. Vance also retweeted one of those posts, by the way. Also tonight, the drumbeat is growing louder for Trump to fire DHS Chief Kristi Noem, including Democratic Senator John Fetterman and now Tom Tillis, who is the first Republican senator to call for the ouster of both Noem and Miller. Ana Navarro, are you surprised, or what do you think it indicates, that Stephen Miller, who normally doesn't back down on anything, is rushing to try to defend himself, to deflect blame, to say that it was someone else's fault and not his, even though he has an extraordinary amount of power in this White House?
I think what it says is that they are getting an extraordinary amount of backlash from the country. I think, including Republicans, including conservatives. I think Americans have had it. I think Americans will not be lied to. Frankly, they chose to, they killed the wrong guy, right? Because this is like the perfect guy. Alex Preddy is the guy you would want to date your daughter. The guy you would want your son to grow up to be. A decent human being who was serving humanity, serving sick veterans, who is, there is nothing that has been said about that man that isn't wonderful. And so they can't malign him. They can't malign him because we have the videos. So they can't say he's a would-be assassin and people believe him. They can't say, as they said, that he was there to commit a massacre. People realize they are being lied to, and they will not be lied to a second time the way they were lied to about Renee Good. And let's remember that this comes on the heels of the Renee Good murder. It comes on the heels 2 days after the baby boy, the 5-year-old boy with a beanie hat, was detained and used as bait. People have had it, Abby. This country has had it, and they're feeling the heat.
It's a heck of a turnaround. You have Stephen Miller, who days ago was calling Alex Preddy a would-be assassin, today acknowledging there could be some fault by the agents. Is this the first time Stephen Miller has ever given an inch on anything? And it looks to me like the strategy is shifting here, like to Anna's point. The strategy is changing. All of a sudden, you see the leaders sort of backing off and trying to push responsibility down to the ICE agents on the street. And I should add, this is exactly why we need a full and fair and independent investigation, because this is a new fact that we didn't know before. Now, I have real questions about the investigation as currently constituted will be full and fair and independent, but this is an important revelation.
Yeah, and I also wonder, I mean, really, are we really going to say that it's the CBP agents on the ground who are responsible and not the people actually pushing the policy from the White House, the people putting quotas, the people even allowing Border Patrol to be in the interior of the United States as opposed to on the border? Is that really what we're doing here, is casting the blame to the little guy as opposed to the people in charge?
Well, you've seen, look, Stephen Miller was very instrumental in the America First Policy Institute. was the architect of a lot of these things that the administration is doing on immigration, was out in front on this issue. The reporting says that Kristi Noem had checked up the chain, including to Stephen Miller, as to what she said publicly.
Constant contact with the White House is what they said she was in on the day of this shooting.
So now you're seeing Stephen Miller, who, notably, reportedly was not in that meeting with the president on Monday night when you had Kristi Noem, Corey Lewandowski, the chief of staff. He's not in that meeting. That tells you something when you're not in a meeting. So the fact that he's backtracking on some of these things and that they're starting to shift gears, not surprising.
See, this is where the whole thing collapses. When the lie works, they double down. When the video exists, suddenly it's miscommunication. Suddenly it's the agents on the ground. Suddenly nobody wants to take responsibility. And here's the part they don't want you to notice. The same people who scream law and order are always the first ones running from accountability. You're not crazy for noticing the shift. You're not overreacting. This is what exposure looks like.
I mean, they lied when it was so clear they were lying. And I think that is unfortunately the effect that this Maga cult movement has. We saw the same thing with Renee Good. We all saw what we saw, but all it took was enough of them to say, oh, no, she was trying to run him over with her car. And then across the board, you saw people present it as though it's a debate. Well, what did you see and what did you see? And it blatantly was not. I want to commend CNN Sarah Seidner for being on the ground because she was one of the first people that I heard, maybe other people did, but she was one of the first people to blatantly say they are lying. It is clear they are lying. We saw, and that is so important to the credibility here. Furthermore, there's a reason why we have not seen a resurgence of the Proud Boys. And that is because I believe a lot of them are likely made ICE officers. Again, I've said this on the show before, I've not seen any deep dive reporting into who these people are, but they certainly adopt a lot of the ideology, a lot of the tactics, a lot of the violent tactics, a lot of the wearing masks, and it sounds a lot like their founder, what they initially put out. And so because Stephen Miller backtracks, I don't really care. I wonder about all the incidents that are not caught on videotape. I wonder about all the people who are sitting in detention centers right now as we sit here, who are malnourished, who are without life-saving medication, children who have been kidnapped.
Did you just say ICE officers are militia?
Yes, have you not been paying attention?
Yeah, I
they
think
certainly
you're
mirror
stretching
the
it a little
Gestapo.
bit. You know, that's very.
I don't think I'm stretching anything. I think we have seen,
That's
what we
what-
have not seen,
You know,
what we have
this
not
is
seen are
actually a
gang members committing
this is a
violence. What we
federal
have
and
seen
state
are
mandate.
ICE agents
You're
Hold on one
pushing
second.
that a little bit
But
there.
Tiffany,
That's
you're saying
way
that
offside.
you're just making a supposition here. There's no concrete evidence of
You got to
actual
be careful.
Proud
That's
Boys members.
that's way
There was
offside.
some supports. There
DHS.
was
These are
some
men and
Well,
women
actually,
serving
but we have seen white supremacist tattoos
risking their lives,
on-
serving the government,
risking their
and you're
lives, they're
calling them,
taking lives,
You're calling them
Kevin.
Proud Boy militia.
You're-
Did you say that?
Well,
I did not call
there
them
has been
Proud
some
Boy
reporting
militia,
that
but
Tom
I think it's
Homan coming-
disgraceful
You're
that you're
way
sitting
offside.
here.
Tom
Way
Homan
offside.
coming
I'm
to
actually not,
being
but I
put in
think that there
charge.
are white supremacist tattoos on their
White
necks. We have seen-
supremacist federal officers.
Yeah, white supremacist federal officers.
Like, where are you going with this? Why would you say that?
I'm going with my eyes, ears, and logic. There have been multiple ICE agents who have white supremacist
Men and
tattoos
women
right.
on
working
their
for the
necks.
federal
let me let
government,
Jim have a
risking
word.
their
Recording
lives,
and video.
carrying out a mandate, and they're white supremacists?
Yes,
Hold on,
and you're a
hold on.
member of a cult, so I
Hold
don't
on.
expect you to have
Whoa,
logic.
Let Jim have a
whoa,
word.
whoa, whoa.
I think the generalizations here are a bit of an overreach.
Yeah, and
That being
let's not
said,
make
that-
personal
that
attacks.
Tom Homan being put in charge now of being on the ground in Minnesota. You've also heard reporting that some of the ICE officers, a lot of the ICE officers, are feeling a bit relieved now that he's in charge. So I think that goes to the point that Kevin's making, that these folks are people, a lot of them are people who want to do good, that are glad that there's someone coming that's going to give them further direction, that they are going to soften some of the positions. And look, these guys are carrying out orders from above. And the fact that Tom Homan's stepping in is a good thing.
Well, there's also,
Homan is not a
okay,
danger
hold on, guys.
here.
There's
No,
also
Homan is
there
a
is
big problem.
also a big distinction between ICE and Border Patrol. They are two different agencies. They don't have the same tactics. They don't have the same training. They don't have the same mandate. And so one of the big tensions that's been happening on the ground in these cities is that you had Greg Bovino, who's a Border Patrol sector chief, coming in and running immigration enforcement in the interior, and that's been a huge problem. I do want to play, because I think you need to hear this straight from Tom Tillis's mouth, the anger coming from this Republican senator about how immigration has been handled by the Trump administration.
Stephen Miller never fails to live up to my expectations of incompetence.
Why do you think he should resign? Fired?
I'm going to leave that up to the president. I can tell you, if I were president, neither one of them would be in Washington right now.
But do you think Noam should step down?
I think Noam needs to decide what. I think if Noam looks at her body of work, I could not be. If I were in her position, I can't think of any point of pride over the last year. She's got to make her own decision, or the president does. But she has taken this administration into the ground on an issue that we should own. We should own the issue of border security and immigration. But they have destroyed that for Republicans. Something that got the president elected, they have destroyed it through their incompetence.
Really powerful point. I mean, he is right that Trump entered the White House with positive approval ratings on the issue of immigration, and now it's negative. Now you have half the country saying they'd be open to abolishing ICE. More than half the country saying they are unhappy with what ICE is doing. Have they flipped this issue on its head, a winning issue for the president?
I think the immediate answer to this on a bipartisan basis is a full, transparent investigation. I think everybody agrees. That is the right way to start cooling things down. Execution of this mandate is becoming scrutinized. How do you do this? How do you actually go get the 25 million illegal immigrants out of the country if everybody agreed to do that at the beginning of the mandate? That's not so easy. We're learning that. Many of these people have ingrained themselves as good citizens into the country. They're providing services. They're paying their taxes. Should we kick them out? That's a big debate as well. But anybody that's broken the laws of the United States that came in here illegally, I don't think you're going to get a lot of support keeping them here. So how do you filter that?
Yeah.
How do you execute that?
Let me tell you something, Kevin. They are detaining and have deported people that are not here illegally. When you are here under political asylum, with a political asylum claim pending, like the father and that 5-year-old child, you are here legally. They have detained and deported legal permanent residents. They have wrongfully detained U.S. citizens. And I think, and people are watching it and seeing it, Americans are seeing it, because there are brave Americans out there who are taking video of this. The problem with Kristi Noem is that she's lied. She has lied consistently and been caught doing it. And also, you know, you want to paint the federal agents as if they are, I don't know, some sort of saintly body. They're
I believe in law enforcement.
There are good law enforcement.
I support police.
And there are bad. I do too, but there's bad ones. We have seen that there's bad ones who are prosecuted
But that doesn't,
and held accountable.
let me jump in for a second. That doesn't make 98%.
But that's what distinguishes us from countries like Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba. That when there is bad law enforcement, we hold them accountable. And also, remember that this force is very different than what we have known before. Because these federal agencies have increased dramatically in a very short time. So the level of training they are getting, the level of vetting they are getting. And then a woman gets killed, and the vice president in this administration tells them they have absolute immunity. So that's a formula for disaster. When you have badly trained, trigger-happy newbies armed to the teeth, militarized a city like Minneapolis, and you tell them, go out and do whatever the hell you want because we got your back because you've got
It's also notable that this is the first time that we've heard anybody in the administration talk about, best practices, regulations, things that these agents are supposed to do. And the only reason they're talking about it now is because they're trying to defend Stephen Miller, who came out and said that this person was a domestic terrorist.
All levels here. Okay, the bosses, Kristi Noem, chief among them, got caught lying about what happened, right? He did not brandish a firearm. He was not a would-be assassin. It's really hard to recover your credibility when you're caught in a stone-cold lie like that. Now, look, I've worked with cops my whole career as a prosecutor, state and federal. I was in charge of supervising state police, feds, whatever. What you're seeing on the ground from these DHS officers, many of whom are Border Patrol people, as you note, Abby, is not high-level policing. And I'll just give you one example. I think what you're going to hear out of this investigation is the reason that we decided that lethal force was necessary because we saw he had a firearm in his waistband, right? It looks like in the back. Do you know how many NYPD officers stop somebody every day in this city who's got a firearm on them, sometimes illegally? That does not open up the floodgates to shoot that person, right? It happens all day long. Good cops, experienced patrol cops, New Jersey State Police, NYPD, FBI, DEA, they don't just open fire when someone's got a weapon in their jacket, in their waistband, in their pocket. You need more than that. You need an imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. And so the level of street-level policing we're seeing from these folks is badly
they are not trained to do street-level policing.
Exactly.
And to your point, you know, dozens of guns were recovered by Minneapolis police last year. They didn't kill a single one of the people carrying those weapons. So there's a training issue here, but there's also perhaps
is it all
there's an
happening in
accountability
Minneapolis?
issue
Why
here.
is it all Minneapolis?
Kevin, we actually have a lot more to talk about, so hold your thought. We'll get to it on the other side of the.
And this is exactly why this exchange hit such a nerve. Because Kevin O'Leary didn't walk onto that panel to debate facts. He didn't walk on to listen, to learn, or to even consider that he might be wrong. He walked on with one job: defend the narrative, no matter how ugly it looks when the lights are on. And the moment Tiffany Cross refused to play along, the moment she stopped sanitizing the truth to make it comfortable, that's when the pearl clutching started. Suddenly it's too far. Suddenly it's watch the rhetoric. Suddenly everyone wants to talk about tone instead of talking about dead Americans, detained children, and officials caught lying on camera. And let's be honest with ourselves, if Tiffany Cross had said all of this quietly, politely, with a smile on her face, she would have been ignored. Because history has shown us something very clear. Power never responds to politeness. The same people who scream law and order are always the first ones making excuses when the law hurts the wrong people. The same people who defend strong borders suddenly pretend to care about civility when someone exposes the consequences of their policies. That's not hypocrisy by accident. That's the system working exactly as designed. And when Tiffany called it a cult, that wasn't name-calling, that was diagnosis. A movement where facts don't matter, evidence doesn't matter, and loyalty is valued more than human life. A movement where accountability is optional as long as you're on the right team. Kevin O'Leary's reaction told you everything you need to know. Not outrage over what's happening on the ground, outrage over being challenged. Not concern for victims, concern for the narrative cracking in real time. And here's the uncomfortable truth a lot of people don't want to face. America doesn't have a communication problem. It has a denial problem. Because everything Tiffany said, it didn't come out of nowhere. It came from video evidence. From court records, from officials backtracking, from lies that collapsed the moment sunlight hit them. You don't get to cry about rhetoric after years of dehumanizing immigrants. You don't get to lecture anyone about tone after cheering on cruelty from the highest office in the country. And you definitely don't get to act shocked when someone finally stops pretending this is a good faith conversation. This wasn't about winning an argument. This was about refusing to let the truth be buried under politeness. And whether you like Tiffany Cross's delivery or not, one thing is undeniable, she said out loud, what millions of people have been screaming at their screens for years. And that's why moments like this matter. Now I want to know what you think. Did Tiffany cross a line, or did she finally say what needed to be said? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's actually talk about it.